Several Republicans calling for a special committee to investigate any ties between President Trump's campaign team and Russia. Now, this comes as the Justice Department tells lawmakers that he needs some more time to gather information about President Trump's claim that President Obama tapped his phones at Trump Tower. So let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer. He's the Vice President of Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a former terrorism analyst at the Treasury Department. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So not a lot of agreement so far. They have managed to agree on the scope of the investigation. They've also agreed on a witness list, an initial list for this public hearing, which will be held on Monday. But beyond that, is this investigation headed on a collision course?
Well, look, I would say that there are some real questions right now about how the United States and Russia could possibly get along. I don't think there's any question at this point that the Russians have tried to meddle in our political system, in our democratic process. But I think there is a question of what the Russians expect to get out of their meddling. In other words, when you look at some of the staffing that the president has brought into his national security team, when you look at the president's overall posture on Iran, where the Russians have a partnership, and overall the way that this country views Russia, it seems like a long throw from third, so to speak, that you would begin to see a reset between Russia and the United States.
And that, as you're saying, would be a greater concern. That would be the collision course that you would be concerned about. Is a Russia and U.S. alliance even possible?
In my view, no. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you see a number of indicators that things are going in the opposite direction. You're certainly not going to see bipartisan support for some kind of renewed alliance. Certainly, that appears to be the case right now when you look at the political atmosphere in Washington. Again, as I noted, the president's position on Iran seems to be one of overall hostility, and of course, the Iranians and the Russians have a partnership that it doesn't appear to be something that's breakable at this point, that the Russians are really all in Syria with the Iranians. Then you look at, for example, McMaster at the National Security Council, you look at Mike Pompeo at the CIA. These are not pro-Russia individuals on Trump's team.
Yeah, why are we not hearing more about that aspect of the Trump team versus all of these connections that we hear about?
Look, I think right now what you're looking at is a mixed bag, and it could be that we're waiting to see where the center of gravity finally shifts. There are individuals that appear to have Russia ties within the Trump team. Does that mean that the Trump team is overall pro-Russia? I think that the story tells otherwise, but I think the president may ultimately have to make a decision about which way the team goes.
And should a bipartisan select committee be chosen to investigate this, do you think that that would be the best avenue to take?
Look, this is part of our democratic process, and the idea that we would try to uncover what may have happened during the election, what kinds of connections did exist before the election. I don't think that there's a problem in trying to discern that. I think that ultimately, though, we need to be realistic about what Russia would try to gain from this, and whether this administration or this government more broadly would be able to deliver that for Russia. Again, right. my sense is that it's not possible.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate you joining us. And
Pleasure.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.